Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. My name is Jane Atkinson. I'm the author of the Wealthy Speaker 2.0 and the Epic Keynote and the soon to be released Wealthy Speaker Daily Success Planner and Journal. Now, before we begin, I want to give a shout out to the people who have posted comments and reviews on either our site or iTunes or Stitcher. Those comments really help us gain traction to markets that aren't already a part of our listener group. So thank you so much for that. Joan Robison says, after listening the Ryan Estes Journey to a Million Part 1 podcast, invaluable podcast. Thank you, Ryan, for your openness and tactical steps. So thank you, Joan, for leaving that comment. And tactical steps is actually what we're going to be talking about today during part 2 of Journey to a Million with Ryan Estes. Welcome, Ryan.
Hi, Jane. It's good to be back for part 2.
I'm so happy to have you back for part 2. And one of the things that I keep getting more and more excited about is the fact that you and I are going to be doing an event together called Accelerate 17 in your hometown of Minneapolis on November 17th to 19th. We're going to have a special guest in Kendra Hall. Ryan, I'm so excited that we're going to be doing that together.
I am too. I think it's going to be great. We've had a long journey together. From prior to even me starting in this business, I was a client in my corporate career. So it's been a great 8 years, and we'll kind of get to reveal our journey to those that are interested in, following a similar path and building a successful speaking and coaching business. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
And you've talked about the fact that this is the event that you wish you would have had back at the beginning. So that's our goal, is for people who want to shave some time and energy off of the learning curve and getting to a million. Okay. So when we last left off our episode together, we had explored from the beginning of your journey to across several flashpoints of success. There were a few bumps along the way, including a health scare, but that success was reached, the $1 million mark, in under 4 years. And so today, we want to continue that journey and really talk about those tactics. How does the Ryan Estes machine run? So let's first talk about your sales process. A call or an email comes into your office, and then what happens?
So if we receive an inquiry, and that could be a referral, a direct email inquiry, or a channel partner, a bureau agent, could email or call the office. Lynn Mandanek, my business manager, is the first point of contact for anything and everything new business related. And one of the tactics that we deploy is we try and get Lynn on the phone with the channel partner or the customer. There's a lot of email trading back and forth about fees, topic, Q&A, asking and answering. And while that's all well and good, we have some very specific kind of protocol around 3-hour maximum response time. So send an inquiry to me. Within 3 hours, somebody will be attempting to schedule time with you on the phone. And so, one of the things about having Lynn is, what if I have 4 keynotes in a row, or I'm doing an all-day training workshop, right? And you've got somebody who's, outbound with an inquiry asking about business, and then here we are, potentially not responding a day and a half later, which is pretty typical for our industry. We beat that every time. And then 3 hours is what we say minimum. I would say typically Lynn's responding within 30 minutes. Unless she's in a meeting or we're having a call or something, she's that plugged into it, and it's just sense of urgency. We create sense of urgency, and we're always looking to build relationships. So, what Lynn wants to do is establish immediate connection, avail herself as a credible expert, and be able to talk very specifically, understand someone's unique situation, and then reply. So that would be a direct contact. If it's a channel partner, we believe it's our responsibility and obligation to prepare them to have high impact conversations with their clients. So the more we can understand about the event and what's going into it, the better we'll be able to either A, position me, or B, make a recommendation if I'm not the right choice. And so that's kind of an entree into some of our tactical sales protocol.
I love it. And for those of you who may not be familiar, your channel partners in this particular case are going to be your speakers' bureaus. As an aside, what would you say your ratio, do you have that number off the top of your head? Percentage of business with bureaus, percentage of direct?
Yeah, 60-40. And 60% are coming through our channel, which are the bureaus, and 40% come from our direct efforts. And then there's some outlier events where you get a production company that has those kinds of things. But typically it's a 60-40 split. But I will acknowledge, we view our bureau partners as our most important customers. I don't get to $1 million in 4 years without their support. And I'm fully recognize and understand that. So part of our protocol, our sales protocol, is to make sure, particularly with our bureau partners, that we're keeping that relationship fluid. They're up to speed on my schedule, my content. When I'm in a city where I'm doing work, there's an opportunity to stop by and do a lunch and learn, or make good connections, or invite somebody to come out and see me that hasn't previewed me yet. That is a huge part of our process, because if it wasn't for our channel partners, I'd have to have 3 more people selling for me to create the volume and momentum that we have. So that's really, really important.
And so part of that, I know we weren't really planning on going here, but part of that is going to be that whole calendar management piece. And I think maybe educating your channel partners, your bureau agents, that you likely are not going to be the first hold on any given date. And a part of your job and Lynn's job, Ryan, is to head off any problems at the pass. If there are 2 bureaus submitting you for the same event, boom, you're on it so quickly, so that whoever the client decides to go with is the one, and everybody is aware of what's going on. Is that your process?
It is our process, and we're very, very proactive about managing that process. I always say the truth will set you free and keep everybody informed into the actual truth of what is happening with our calendar. So if multiple people are calling about the same date or the same event, or there's 3 viable holds in front of you, and we're just proactively managing that all the time. September's closed, Lynn's into October, and we're getting ready to close that down. And hopefully by after Labor Day, we'll be pretty locked for what we're doing this year. So we're already into 2018. We're Q1 2018, looking at January, talking about volume. How are we coming out of the holiday? That's kind of my mindset. So that's not to say something won't pop up. Somebody will call this week with an inquiry about September, and all of that's great.
Those are champagne problems.
Yeah, all of that's great. First, it's great to have your September full, right? And to say, actually, we're closed for the month. That's all about demand creation. So part of astute, intelligent selling is to always be cultivating demand around your schedule, availability, product, and service. And so the fact that we're in those conversations, our September's booked. He's not taking any more dates, but and then we can get into a conversation about 2018. The other thing we'll do is we'll proactively recommend somebody else. Is there somebody else that, tell us, and Lynn will be in that conversation. Oh, Ryan's book, but tell me about your event. Maybe I can help. We're building relationships, because that event's going to come around next year, and we can be on the front of that. And so that's another thing. In Q1, all of the people that missed us in Q3 or Q4, Lynn's going to be doing outreach to all of those people. Hey, we talked last year. Remember the conversation we had on the phone? And I think you might have gone with this person. We're just, are you planning 2018 yet? Because we're working on Ryan September. Just to be able to have those warm conversations gives us an advantage in managing all of that. And just like it's smart selling, right? You want to pursue your closest dollar. That's a much higher conversion ratio sales conversation than Lynn calling outbound and trying to get a meeting planner on the phone for AIG when we've never done an event for AIG. We don't know anybody there. So we're always trying to kind of maximize our opportunity. And because we have a champagne problem where demand has exceeded supply, we can circle back to those and create close opportunities. And so that's a big part of our sales mindset.
I love it. I love it. And I think that wealthy speakers definitely want to be taking a look at when you're not available. This is a problem that I know a lot of people would love to have, and I also know that there are a lot of people listening today that do have this problem. And so let's make sure that you are converting that sale ultimately down the road.
Yeah, and I'll be clear and say this wasn't always a problem we had. Before we had champagne problems, we had champagne taste with beer budget problems. and you know what? Like when you're on a beer budget, like you know what I would do every day? I'd get up and go outbound. And I sent hundreds and thousands of outbound emails. I made hundreds and thousands of cold calls. I went to events. I mean, it's hustle, you know? And then when I did book an event and I was in a hotel and I saw there was another event at the same hotel, I'd go hunt down whoever was playing that event and say, who did you hire as your speakers? Here's my card. I mean, always, constantly thinking about how can I fill my calendar. And it wasn't a job. It became an obsession, a quest. You know, the first number was 40. Then we were going to sell 50 things. And literally, I would get up at 4 a.m. and just start thinking, all right, well, who am I calling? What's my plan like? I'm just going to tell you, like, at some point you have to think. And I would say this to Lynn, there are hundreds of thousands of meetings happening in the world this month. All we need to do is get our 7 booked this month. That's all we need. So let's get hungry and hustle and get out there and get this calendar full. And when that's your mindset, you make the way. And the great thing about this business is there are hundreds of ways to do it. You know, there's hundreds of ways to create referral incentives and generate web traffic and do opt-ins to create community and, you know, do drip marketing. But most of these decisions happen one-on-one with a person who has a need and you have a solution and you convince them that it's a good fit and to invest in you. And so we're huge on phone conversations and we're huge on face-to-face. And the number of flights I've taken to meet channel partners, and if anybody in a 3-state region calls about an event, we want to get in front of that person live and have a coffee or a lunch or a meeting. So our Minnesota booking is steadily increasing. And that's because we're getting out there in the community and we're meeting people face to face. And that's been great for our business. So.
Wow, wealthy speakers, if anything, I hope you are taking some not only information, but inspiration away from this call, because it really is a numbers game. So you know what, Ryan, a couple of months ago, I heard a meeting planner somewhere saying that the cold call was dead. The cold call is not dead. Let's, getting out there and making those calls and also doing the emailing. And that's something that Kendra did really, really well. Kendra is going to be joining us in Minneapolis. That's something that she did well. It's a numbers game. You planted tons and tons of seeds.
One of the things I talk about is how do you turn a cold call into a warm call? So like just warming it up a little bit. Anybody that's seen a video, anybody that's listening to this podcast, anybody that's why I blog. because it's creating human connection. I get a couple more subscribers, a few new meeting planners, a bureau agent forwards it to one of their clients. They don't hire me next year, but they hire me this year. There's a level of intimacy and familiarity that comes with turning that kind of cold, neutral relationship into something that's a little warmer. And so that there's value in that. And so this whole idea of chase your closest dollar and look back and do kind of your catalog and where weren't you available, which holds did you release, that's all intelligence. And we want to be intelligent about how we go to market, not spin our wheels on low yield opportunity. What's our next best opportunity to create a booking or an engagement? And that's how we have to think about it.
I love it. I love it. Some of the things that you brought over from your corporate world were kind of your metrics and your processes for selling. What was one of them, I think, on the video, the Tam Plan?
Yeah, so we have something we call the TAU, right? Which is and TAU stands for Target Account Universe. So in our direct sales business, what we always have a group of what we call, kind of class A prospective clients. And they may be people that have seen me before, people considered us for an event where we were booked, but there's this group of what we feel are A-list opportunities.
Yep.
And in that target account universe, Lynn is proactively managing a cycle of information out to them, at some degree of interval that keeps us top of mind, and B, helps position us as a solution to their event. And that's just, it's just kind of good, consistent sales and marketing. It's a ground game. It's playing offense.
Would she be customizing that for every individual client?
Yes. Yep. And so you can't do that for 300,000 companies, and I get there's power and automation in a CRM, but boy, you can for 20. And that's the whole idea. It's kind of like AB, right? It's like you're in your TAU. These are 20 people. They know her. They know me. We're building these relationships. And eventually we'll hit a tipping point where, preparation will intersect with opportunity, and I'll be the right fit for that particular year and their event, and that could lead to multiple events. And so, there's been some thought with which we established this TAU. The clients that get on a TAU, there's rationale to it. There's a reason. So, and
I love it.
That's how we approach it.
My coach calls it the largest check clients. I call it the A team versus the B team, and so on. There's lots of different ways you can look at it, but the point is that you're creating a list that's not massive, so massive that it's overwhelming. And one of the things I do want to bring up is that everybody wants a Lynn. And when I was a Lynn, everybody wanted a Jane. And so there is something to be said for, let's talk about, I know that she came with you from your company and that you had that experience together. And I think that that's one really good thing to put on your list in terms of finding that really great sales partnership. What are some other things that you might recommend to people? I really talk a lot, and I did a whole podcast on this, by the way, on how to find an agent. And that's kind of what we're referring to, Lynn, as your business manager or your agent. And we did actually talk about you guys on this podcast. There's a process, and training on the front end is so, so, so important. She may not have needed as much, but you probably got to know this business together, didn't you?
We did, and what I'll say is the training never stops. Her training isn't over, so and neither is mine. And we're constantly learning because the game's constantly changing. It's shifting, with the kind of technology and social media and community building and productization. The learning never stops. And so ultimately, with Lynn, it was real simple. We're aligned in our core values. A culture fit, if that's what you want to call it. And as we've we have an Emily now too. Emily. We're adding to the team. So, we always say is, when we add to the team, and I'll have those conversations with Lynn, is he or she on brand? And for us, that means they're going to fit into our program. And there's no ego here. Our little mantra is be humble, stay hungry, always hustle. We all do everything. And so, somebody needs to kind of embrace that ethos and mentality and understand, what we're about. We're a small business, and we're constantly evolving and shifting and adapting and pursuing new projects and partnerships and opportunities. So it has to be somebody that kind of can think with that entrepreneurial spirit. But Lynn knows too, like if things slow down or there's a gap in the calendar, I'm going to be pushing us, let's review the TAU. What conversations have you had this week? Let's talk about your outbound communication. I mean, we'll look at all of that and continue to refine it and update it. In a week where we've got, 25 inquiries by Wednesday and we're just responding to things. I mean, that happens too. But when there are soft periods in our booking cycle and our calendar, we examine this with a pretty intense focus and pressure. So she knows I'm that way and that the pressure and the questions are coming, and, we're all accountable. We are all accountable, myself included, to keeping that calendar full at 70 dates a year. And so some of that responsibility falls directly onto my shoulders when I'm at an event, generating spin, spending time in our bureau partners' offices. Those are my primary responsibilities. Lynn's primary responsibility is to create outbound connections in our TAU and be managing relationships with people that have expressed interest, but we haven't closed yet. And so we both touch those things, but, those are separate responsibilities to move the engine forward.
And one of the biggest responsibility that I think you have is to get on the platform and deliver. Because when you deliver, that makes everything else that much easier. So let's talk about your process before, during, and after the speech, because the before is essential to it going well on the platform. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so there's a discovery process, and I would say the discovery process varies by clients, but without question, we're doing at minimum one or potentially a series of discovery calls so we can clearly understand the learning objectives, the reason for the event, the audience expectations, challenges, opportunities, preferences, and how our primary client, the meeting planner, the executive, defines success. So we need to understand all of those variables going in. We also do a pre-event survey, a questionnaire that we do online, and I think that's been useful in preparing me to have more effective discovery calls. So if I'm reviewing all of the survey detail in advance, we don't have to repeat that on the phone. I'll kind of understand where the client's coming from and be able to have a deeper dive discussion or dialogue. Additionally, it's possible that we could be interviewing meeting participants, so attendees that are going to be in the audience beyond the meeting planner. And we'll even have Lynn do this and record them. So if I'm traveling, she's doing audience interviews, recording them, and I'm listening to them on a flight or in a hotel room or in the back of an Uber. Depending upon the client, we will also do site visits. So if we're doing a retail, hospitality, entertainment, I'll give you some examples. We did a big event for Lowe's this year. We did another one for CVS. We did one for Tiffany and Company, the high-end jewelry retailer.
Nice.
I went into Tiffany and pretended I was shopping for an engagement ring, and they walked me through their whole process, and I ended up actually buying a tie clip, and I wore the tie clip during the keynote, and I talked about who I bought it from at their Las Vegas store, and I brought a photographer with me, and we had pictures of me so the whole event is customized. Who else is doing that? Not too many people. So we call that the Ryan Estis experience, and we think of it this way, and it does help us sell. From point of contact to 30 days after the event, what was the total experience like? And was it differentiated than the rest of the marketplace? And we are all responsible for that, because the hour in the room, that's part of it. It's not all of it. And I agree with you that hour has to be epic. But when it comes to epic, there's a lot of good speakers out there. There are thousands. In some respects, you could say, we're commodities, we're products on the shelf. And people certainly see it that way. So it comes down to this nuancing. If Tiffany's hires 3 speakers, was I the only one that was in the store with a professional photographer buying a tie bar, wearing it the day of the keynote and talking about my experience and then showing it on the screen? That's different. And when you approach the marketplace and your client relationships that way, yes, it does make selling easier.
Well, we won't say that nobody is out there
I would,
doing
I would,
that,
I would,
but
I
we
would
will say that it is a differentiator,
that's
no
that's right.
question. And
That's
I
right.
think that the whole RE experience is something that people will walk away with and said, you know what? They were great people to work with. And people want to do business with people that they like. We've been hearing that for years, and you guys are people that they like.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, look, we care about the experience. I mean, it's a huge decision for a company like that to invest in me. It's their once a year event. They're
Yeah.
spending a lot of money bringing everybody together, and we want to make the hour as good as we can make it. And so
It would
part of
be it would be so easy at this level of your business to become a diva.
well, be humble, stay hungry, always hustle.
That's not a part of your values. And I think that that's really, really important. And I love that that is your mantra and that you keep it going. The conflict can also arise sometimes when spinoff is in the works, or it can possibly arise. Talk about what happens after the event. People are coming up to you with their business. This is what I talk about all the time. Hopefully we're getting a number of spin-off from every event so that we're leading to the next event and the whole process is that much easier. What happens when people come up to you?
Yeah, we have a great conversation. We expressed interest. Oftentimes, people are initiating an opportunity for a conversation about a future event with us. If the event where we this is very clear. If the event where we delivered came through a channel partner, then all subsequent bookings as a result of that event will be referred back and routed through the channel partner. Now, depending upon the relationship, we may be involved in the first call or the client may be reaching out to us. That happens. That's just the nature of how people connect. They saw you, there's some familiarity, all of those kinds of things.
Right.
But we value our channel partnerships. I'm not where I am today without them. So, and yeah, that's a big part of it. I mean, in addition to being great on the stage, being physically present at an event is a sales and marketing opportunity, right? You've got other people in the audience that potentially could hire you when you're speaking to a Fortune 500 company. There are potentially other divisions and other opportunities and other groups that could, leverage you. So, we're thinking about that top of mind and certainly looking to take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves.
So that may mean, what's the ideal situation for you? I know you don't always have the time to be able to stay longer than, because you've got other events that you need to do. What's the ideal scenario?
The ideal scenario would at least be to stay for a little while after you've delivered your message. So if the stars align, you deliver your message, and there's a break, and there's an opportunity to engage, trade business cards, make connections. All of that's viable. The other thing that we do is, we wrote an ebook recently called Adapt and Thrive. We have a text to download that feature that we typically share toward the end of the presentation.
Okay.
So, we're giving away something of value. It's 2 years of research, 6 case studies. It's free. And for those people that want to opt in and engage that way, they'll get a little additional research, and we have an opportunity to begin to build a connection. So.
Great. So that's how you're pulling people into your fan base and keeping them there. Any idea what percentage of your audience might opt in?
Yeah, it's probably less than half, I would guess. But still that's significant growth.
Less than half is good, and they're really truly interested. So
still, and it's that ebook is it's specific, and it's for a specific audience, so it may not be applicable to everybody that we talk to, which is totally fine. But if people that want it, it's available, and and we've seen substantial list growth because of it. But I also think, again, that's another value add. So they're getting the ebook. The other thing that happens is we will provide the meeting planner or the corporate business partner or the channel partner 5 articles relevant to their conference and their learning objectives, and typically 4 or 5 videos as part of our aftercare follow-up program. So now what happens is, in addition to the keynote, now we have a client champion inside a company that can leak out content to their audience over the next 12 months to keep the message and the ideology permeating. So it's not a one and done situation. So giving somebody a portfolio of resources and then kind of coaching them on how to use it. Once every 30 days, drip this content out to your audience. Here's an article from keynote speaker at Accelerate 2017. Remember when Ryan talked about this? Here's a video reinforcing the message. And not every client takes advantage of that or uses it the way we might suggest. But boy, that package and that portfolio of content afterwards, getting that in the 30 days following an event, that's also helpful too. And yes, it keeps us top of mind and spreads the message and helps us accelerate sales growth.
It's a part of the experience. So before, during, and after. So we're booking out into 2018 now. Today is the day of the eclipse. The world is changing.
It's actually getting dark out here.
Is it?
It's a little, yeah,
okay.
It really is. It's
You're at a high rise. I'm in East.
Noticeable shift.
Really? Oh, that's
since we began talking.
That's freaky. We're gonna have to get out there after we wrap up here. Tell me, what do you see coming as business game changers for the speaking industry? I'm totally putting you on the spot here because we haven't talked about this. I'd like to know what you think is changing.
So I think one thing that's changing is that people are more experientially inclined. And what I mean by that is that I see the conference, the retreat, the seminar landscape evolving to include more experiences. I think, and I think that's just that's a trend in general. The expectation we have for an experience is growing. I mean, the world is changing around us due to technology, but I think people still crave human connection. But one thing I see is that for the speakers or the event planners that can incorporate some level of an experience aspect into the event, that's a home run. It's certainly something I'm thinking about. I've attended some wonderful retreats in beautiful places that have incorporated nature and physical activities, and even doing things like, a 15-minute morning stretch with a yoga instructor. Is we just have this appetite. And look, that's the reason why Tony Robbins has 10,000 people walking across hot coals and fire as part of his event. He makes it experiential. And so I just see more theater, more experience-oriented programming, more technology, all to kind of elevate the event. So we're not sitting in the, conference room B at the Marriott under the fluorescent lights with the 1-hour break and the box lunch and back to a lineup of, 9 speakers in a row. I think that's where some of the shift and the opportunity exists, and have my mind solely immersed in that.
So I'll put in a plug for you doing leadership retreats in that cool outdoor experience ranch that you are familiar with now. So any clients who might be listening, if you want to take what do you think is a good group of people, good size?
Well, look, I mean, there's opportunities to do retreats like that for 30 and 40 people. I mean, I was out in Montana with a group of 75 executives.
Yeah.
A 55,000 acre ranch, and they were doing everything. They were fly fishing, and they were horseback riding, and they were adventure hiking, and there was, so it was half day of learning, a half day of adventure. And you want to talk about, the camaraderie and the team building that occurs during a whitewater rafting excursion or those kinds of things. I mean, just beautiful and brilliant. And so I personally have a vested interest in pulling some of that into the way we evolve my business.
Yeah,
and,
I love that.
In those discussions now.
So. Okay. So we'll put in a plug for that. You said 2 ideas on what's changing. Do you have one more for us?
Yeah, look, I think technology is going to continue to evolve
Hmm.
the way we connect and communicate. So whether it's incorporating live video or, and we're seeing that all the time. I mean, I was just at an event where there were 250 people in the room, but there were thousands attending around the world. And I think those kinds of hybrid events are going to we'll continue to see technology impact the event experience. However, I do not believe that technology will ever
Take
replace the
over.
live. No.
Yep.
I mean, look, I just went to a Coldplay concert, and I don't care what happens with virtual reality. There's a massive difference between being in the eighth row and seeing Chris Martin
Yep.
play the piano and being in your living room with a set of goggles on. I'm sorry, it's just not the same. And we want to share those experiences with other people, and so I think there's more of an opportunity to incorporate technology in smart ways that create connections either before, during, or after an event. And so I think we'll still see that evolve. So
Awesome. Awesome. There's nothing like feeling the bass in your chest. I mean, you just can't feel it when it's coming through. It's a whole different experience. I love it. Well, speaking of events and experiential and so on and so forth, we do have something coming up in Minneapolis, November 17th to 19th. We are going to be doing deep dives into everything we covered on the Journey to a Million Part 1 and the Journey to a Million Part 2. We're bringing in a secret weapon, Kendra Hall, who is the darling of storytelling. I just had her speak. She's one of my clients as well, and I just had her speak at NSA. And somebody wrote on one of the social media mediums that we all had a collective crush, and NSA had a collective crush on Kendra Hall. Her storytelling techniques and her process for launching herself into this business and moving up the ladders very, very quickly are going to be something that people just don't want to miss. And Ryan, the fact that you're going to be doing deep dives into all of these things that we just talked about during November 17th to 19th in Minneapolis, we're going to do it at the JW Marriott. The J-Dubs are always beautiful venues, and it's right next to Mall of America. And I think we're just going to have an amazing time.
Well, we will, and I'm excited to do this, and I'm excited to partner with you and Kendra. I mean, the whole theme and the idea behind this event is accelerate, and for people that are on this listening and wanna grow faster, I think this is a great investment. And look, it is an investment, and I totally get that. But I think one of the things that's been instrumental to my own success and growth is that I continue to invest back in both myself, my personal and professional growth, and my business. The best teachers are students, and so I have a learning calendar, and I pick 4 or 5 events a year, and I go sit there in the audience as a student, and I'm taking notes and working on my craft and learning and growing. And I think this will be an opportunity to that, and it'll also be an opportunity to plug into a group of like-minded people in a live event format that will provide support, encouragement, and good ideas and resourcing as the journey continues. And so that's and yeah, it's in my hometown, and we have Kendra, who's she's a rock star, a bona fide rock star in this business, and someone who had a very quick kind of burst into success. And so understanding why that happens, her story is different than mine, but understanding why and how to make it happen for you is what this weekend's all about. So
I love it. One of the things that I do every year is I'll set aside a budget for how much I'm going to spend on personal growth for this year. And as my income goes up, so does the budget. It's a percentage. And so I really think that when you invest in yourself, one of the hugest investments I ever made in myself was going to my coach in Toronto. And I've, over 6 years, have learned just vast amounts from Dan Sullivan. He's an absolute genius. And I've learned a tremendous amount. But that's not inexpensive. This event that we're talking about, it's $14.95. It is not expensive, but I am suggesting that people are prepared to invest in themselves quite a bit beyond that for the year, because I really think it's important in personal growth, don't you think?
I do. I mean, I can remember being 23 years old and struggling as a salesperson and sitting in the back of an auditorium listening to Jim Rohn. It was like the godfather of motivational speaking. And he said the most important investment you can make every day is an investment in you. And it's the truth, because when you grow and level shift and get better, nobody can take that from you. And so I think sometimes this particular business can tend to be a bit isolating and myopic. We're working alone a lot. We're traveling alone a lot. And we're in our own ideas and content a lot, and taking a step back and kind of looking at it through a different lens of perspective, and simultaneously getting infused with ideas from other people who are on the same path or have walked before you is just invaluable. And even now, I still, I'm doing 70, 75 live events a year. I always look and see who's going to be speaking. And if there's an opportunity for me to extend or, to stay a few more hours or come in the night before so I can see somebody else in the morning, I'm always looking for opportunities to learn and grow. And I think that's what this weekend is going to be all about.
Well, I can't be more excited. And if somebody wants to know more about it, we're going to put a link on the podcast page, but you can go to speakerlauncher.com and click on events. And we really hope that we are going to see you in Minneapolis, November 17th to 19th. Anything final that you want people to know about how to go on a journey from 0 to $1 million in a very short period of time?
Yeah, the only other thing I'd say is focus on the next most important action you can take. When you use words like $1 million or 8 years or level shifting, it can tend to feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I think the most successful people, they can get very present into you talk about tactics. What's the next most important logical tactic or action to take that's going to help create momentum and move me in the right direction? And you can set the big idea of where you want to be at the end of the year, end of 5 years on the shelf, and that's great. And then get right back into doing the next most important thing now. And if you stay focused on there and work smart and hard and have a little bit of talent, sky's the limit.
I love it. I love it. That's a nice segue into that's exactly why we're designing the Wealthy Speaker Daily Success Planner and Journal, because we want people to set their intention every single day for success. Well, Wealthy Speakers, I hope that you have gotten motivated by this time we've had together. And with that, I will say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Show. Please visit speakerlauncher.com for your free Wealthy Speaker audit, and visit speakerlauncher.com/podcast for show notes and many more resources to help you catapult your speaking business. See you soon, Wealthy Speakers.